Hello, this is Moresh, and today we are going to discuss what is the yDollar. The yDollar is a short-term ETH/BTC backed debt, and it is a product which is built on top of the UMA protocol, and you can find an interface for it which is developed by OpenDAO at yDollar.opendao.io. So let's try to understand how the yDollar works. Let's say you have certain amount of ETH or BTC. To be fair, you can't use it directly with ETH or BTC. You have to convert it either to WETH or REN BTC because they are ERC20. The good news is you don't need to worry about AML, KYC, etc. For that, it can be done in a perfectly permissionless manner. And we have integrations for it on the yDollar side, yDollar.opendao.io. Let's say you can lock your ETH in and mint, let's say 60%. Now this number changes a little bit here and there, but let's say you can mint 60% of your ETH's value or BTC's value in the form of yDollars. The yDollars will then trace the value of US dollars, which means that each yDollar is generally equivalent to $1. It may fluctuate a bit up and down, but it generally traces the US dollar. So let's say this is the let's say this is the region which we is the amount of yDollars which we can mint based upon this much collateral. Okay. Now let's say ETH goes up in value. So your earlier ETH, which was worth this much, is now worth this much, but you had only minted this much amount of yDollars. Now the yDollar site or the protocol allows you to mint hypothetically up to 60%. This changes a little bit here and there, but it allows you to mint a certain amount of your collateral value. That effectively means that you should be able to mint more because 60% is, let's say, hypothetically almost this much. So essentially, you can now borrow more because your collateral value has gone up in value. This is a bit like refinancing, not even refinancing actually, withdrawing equity from your house. So if you have a house, homeowners probably recognize this. If your house and your mortgage, your house goes up in value, you can borrow more against it. It's a pretty straightforward mechanism. It's basically like a mortgage. Now, if ETH, however, goes down, then unfortunately, what will happen is this. If this was what your ETH was worth, now it is worth only this much. And as you can clearly see, that your borrowing is actually now more than 60%. It's quite obvious. This leaves you with a few different options. You can either add more collateral, which means you can deposit a bit more and get it back over here by adding this much more ETH. Or you can reduce borrowing. So you can redeem so that if you don't want to add more ETH, then you can always say that, okay, I will reduce my borrowing to this much. So instead of having more borrowing, now I have reduced my borrowings. So basically you pay down your debt. The final option is if you don't do either of them, and if your collateral value dips, then you will likely get liquidated by somebody else. And in order to incentivize the liquidation process, there are some penalties associated with it, which means that you'll lose some amount of money if your collateral value goes down and you don't either add more collateral or repay your debt. Now, Going forward, the price of the yDollar generally traces the price of a dollar. And let's say it expires in 100 days. The yDollar expires in 100 days. Then as you can see over here, this trajectory, it sort of is close to the $1 value, this line. Okay. And generally what happens is it generally traces it very closely. It can be a little bit higher or a little bit lower, but on the day of the expiry, what effectively happens is the yDollar sort of reaches the price of $1. The price is fixed. It's no longer trying to trace it. They just say, okay, the yDollar is now worth $1, and the amount of ETH or BTC which you had as collateral, which corresponds to the amount of yDollars which are in circulation, that much amount gets locked. So if you had this much yDollars, then that much amount of ETH gets locked. Okay. And the excess collateral which you had, this much, okay, this is now completely unlocked. You don't need any surplus collateral. You don't need to have the 60% ratio. You can just take that away. You can take that away. You don't even have to repay your debt from over here. You can just take this portion away and do whatever you want with it. Now this $Y worth of ETH which was locked, it has a price equivalent of $1. So if you had 100 $Y, then $100 worth of ETH will be locked from your collateral. The rest of it you can take away. Now, after the expiry date, it doesn't try to trace the price of the $Y at all. Essentially, what it represents is a certain amount of ETH or BTC in the form of WETH or Ren BTC. And you can always present your $Y and unlock the collateral which is in there and take it away. And at that point, the $Y get burned and the ETH or BTC is released. And the good part to know is there is actually no penalty if you don't redeem. I mean, it's perfectly fine. You can keep the $Y or swap it to USDC, or there's a balancer pool out there for that. But there's no penalty if you don't redeem. So there's no stress. The $Y now actually represent a fixed amount of ETH or BTC. So they are like scraps of ETH or BTC. And if ETH, depending upon the price action which ETH or BTC has, the value, the dollar value of the $Y now does not trace $1. It can either go up in value. If it is up, then obviously see it went from this to this. And if it goes down, then obviously it went from this to this. So that is how the $Y works. It traces the value of $1 till the expiry date. And even if you don't redeem it, you are okay. You can redeem it even anytime after expiry. Pretty straightforward. The good news is there are pretty good incentives against the $Y. You can earn up to 30 to 40% in APR. Just go to yDollar.OpenDAO.io, mint some $Y and supply liquidity to USDC $Y pool. And you will be airdropped UMA tokens based upon your proportion of the overall balance pool, but the return is currently around this much. So it's pretty healthy. There's no impermanent loss. So this is a big deal actually. No impermanent loss. 30 to 40% return. I mean, you can't really ask for more. That's it. Thanks so much. Talk to you later. Bye.